Hi guys, I hope you're well and rested, well and rested. So as I've promised, today you'll be going through your learner workbook activities, which is your formatives and together with your summative. So let's tackle activity one from your formative assessment. Remember we have done this example, and the last time that we did, there were certain approaches that I did which were incorrect. So I just want to correct and go through this information on the table. So for activity one, using the table below, answer the question that follows. Now let's look at an example of interest to study the information which has been given, the advertisement and the table therein, and then complete the question which follow. So we've got this table information. We've got loans up to 30,000, and for 2 years or 24 months you pay this kind of amount for this type or this kind of loan that you've taken. And okay, so let's get into the question. For number one, you would like to take out a loan of 8,000, and how much would you have to pay back after 24 months? Remember, loans that are up to 10,000, they don't have to exceed 20% per annum, which means it's for 12 months. So how do we go about in terms of solving this? Let's just so we've got about So we've got about 8,000. Remember that for 8,000, if you want to take out for 8,000, how much would you pay after 24 months? So you need to go to the loan amount of 8,000 for 24 months. The amount is 452. So you take 452 times it by 24 months, and it will give you the amount for number one, for A. So it's 452 times 24. That's like 10,848. That's 10,848. So this is the formula in which you have to use for all the answers for B, C, and D. So for 36 months, for 8,000 still, we are still in this column for the amount loan of 8,000. For 36 months, you use the same principle or the same method. So that's how we go about in terms of answering this question. So how I went about in terms of answering the last time was incorrect, where I used the simple interest formula, where we have your principal amount value 1 plus I times n. This was incorrect. So moving on to number two. The following is a scenario of an entrepreneurship of Puseletso. Read through the section and then answer the section, then answer the questions as you go along. So Puseletso was given permission from the headmaster at her school to sell stationery to other learners. After school in the school hall. So over the weekend, she stocks upon blue pens, green pens, pencils, erasers, rulers, and calculators. So the table below shows how many of each item she purchases on average each month. Complete the table by calculating the missing values in the last column. So what you need to do, I'll just show you an example for item blue pens and green pens. So you need to take the number bought in terms of the item. So she bought 800 blue pens. You need to times that by 150, and that will give you the total amount she paid for those items. Same thing that you use for green pens. You use 70 times 175. So that's how you're going to go about in terms of answering number 1, completing this table. So what is the total amount Puseletso plans on spending per month? You'll have to come up with that in terms of the total amount Puseletso plans on spending per month. So obviously you need to add the total amount based on the items that Puseletso has. Also, to be able to afford this amount, she takes a loan of 30,000 from her father. Then Puseletso agrees to pay him back within 1 year with 7.5 simple interest. Let's highlight simple interest. Simple interest added to the loan amount. So how much money will Puseletso have to pay her father in a year's time? So you'll have to use the simple interest formula in order to determine the money will she pay her father in a year's time. That's for number 3. And for number 4, her sales for the first week her sales for the first 4 weeks are shown in the table below. Week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. These are her sales. So for week 1, she sold about 11 pens. Week 2, she sold about 14. Week 3, 12, and the last week 23. So list all the items that Puseletso sells and how many of each item she sells per month on average. So Puseletso sells the stationery at the following unit price. So the question, which of the listed items should she buy fewer of per month to increase her profit margin? You need to motivate your answer. Which of the listed items should she buy fewer of per month to increase her profit margin? So on the video that I've provided, together with the PowerPoint presentation that I've shared, you can find the profit margin formula in order for you to get the answer. And also number 6, you need to calculate how much money would she have made her after 1 month. Number 7, will she have made a profit after 1 month? Motivate your answer. And number 8, Puseletso manage her own businesses for 2 or 3 months and then ask her friend Lerato to help her out. So Puseletso pays Lerato 150 per month for her help. So if the business is running for 10 months of the school year, how much will Puseletso pay Lerato in that school year? Number 9, you need to calculate the total amount of money Puseletso would have spent in the 10 months of the school year. Number 10, calculate the amount of money Puseletso would have made in these 10 months of the school year. So this in number 9, you need to calculate the total amount of money Puseletso would have spent. In number 10, you need to calculate the total money Puseletso would have made in the 10 months. So number 9, you calculating the money spent in 10 months. And in number 10, you calculated the money made in 10 months. Number 11, did Puseletso make a profit at the end of the school year? You need to motivate your answer. And 12, if Puseletso does not increase the prices of her items, but she buys sufficient monthly stock for the requirements of her peers, will she make a profit or at least break even? You need to show your calculations. And the last question, suggest how Puseletso could have saved her business. So that's it for activity 2. Moving on to activity 3. Which of these two investments will yield the highest return if 10,000 is invested at simple interest? You need to show your calculations. So you need to deposit period of 12 months. With this, you need to provide on these columns answers based on the deposited period of 12 months. So using simple interest formula, which of these two investments will yield the highest return if 10,000 is invested? Using your interest formula, we have the initial value which is invested, and also we have using the period of 12 months. So in these two columns, that's where you have to answer. For instance, you'll use the formula of simple interest. Equals to PRT over 100. So for in an interest rate of 10.2, so you'll take 10.2 divided by 100, substitute this number to here, and then in terms of months, for time, we've got about 12 months. You'll substitute it inside here, and we've got the initial amount, which is 10,000, and you'll have to provide how did you manage to get your answer by showing all your steps. Also, with a different interest rate of 10.65, you'll use the same approach. So that's how you go about in terms of answering number 3. You answer based on these two columns given the period of 12 months. That's more like an annual. Activity 4. A small superlative bakes a rye bread and sell it for 12 rand per loaf. It cost the company 7 rand per loaf to produce the bread, and the company has to add an additional 120 in tax. So you need to determine the superlative profit margin on the rye bread, correct it to 1 decimal place. So how to go about in terms of answering this question? You need to use the profit margin formula, which is net income divided by net salaries in review. So it's equals to, you have to take out the 12 rand minus 7 minus 120 cents. That will give you the answer, and you have to divide that by 12, and that will give you the answer. So that's how you go about in terms of answering this. Net income, you take the 12, the price of the loaf, minus 7, the cost, it cost the company 7 rand per loaf to produce bread, which is 7 rand per loaf. You minus it, and you minus by the number of the tax, divided by the price which the supermarket sells the bread for, which is 12 rand, and that will give you in percentage. You need to convert that into 1 decimal place. So that's how you answer activity 4. And also for activity 5, so how to quickly look into this, like how to answer this question. Well, this is more of your sequences and series. So in the basic fundamental way to answer this, as you might know or you might not know, a sequence is just a list of items or objects which have been arranged in a sequential way. As you can see from this picture on your left, this is more of an arranged way. So what do you see, or what do you think in terms of numbers? In my perspective, I'm seeing a sequential order where there is about they added two, there is two sides, and the more the side it extends. So there's there's four sides. So there's 4, 8, 12, 16. So this is more of a sequence. So it's more of a sequence where you just add, you just basically add numbers, and these numbers, they just increase. Let me just, I've got 4, 4, 8, 12, 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. So we can say 4 to the power 2, or 4, 12, 16. So this is more of a sequence, if you can check from this side. And on the right hand side, all I see is just a series of, for me, these waters are at a sequential, in a series way, because of they have a level of pouring out water. So I can say, all I see water coming up from down from a tap down there, or what's this called? Yeah, this set of thingy which pours out water. So you can name this as a series where, as numbers, it's in a form of, it only takes out maybe one. So each has one loop. So this is more of a series. So it's more of 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And the good thing of these loops, or these openings, each opening is dependent on itself. So if one opening is not working, then the others will still continue. So I can say this is more of a series instead of a sequence. So we would want to determine the number, the nth number of this series. So a series it's generalized as the sum of all the terms in a sequence. So within this sequence, the number of all, we would want to determine how many loops are there in this. So in terms of numbers, you can say this is a series, and as I've said, you can determine it by just describing it as a series and providing examples. It depends on how you see it. It doesn't matter. No one, even I myself, I cannot precisely say that I'm correct, because of my answer may be different to yours, based on what you perceive, what you see based on these images. So that's how you go about in terms of answering these two for activity 5. So let's move on to summative assessment. So for summative assessment, question 1, what does financial instruments mean? You need to provide an explanation in terms of what do you understand by financial instruments. And let's quickly redo question 2. The last time I did question 2 with you, there were a few errors that I've made in terms of completing this table. So let's quickly do question 2. So Philip earns about 7,321 and 68 cents. Let's copy that. This is the total income that Philip earns, and his medical aid contribution. Medical aid, it's fixed, doesn't change. So we'll take this, copy that. It's cost 1. And his cell phone account, on average, that is more of your variable cost. And also and the bond repayment for his house is 2,674.34. That's more of a fixed amount. And also he puts 600 per month into a separate wallet on average, so this is more of your variable. And also water and electricity cost, on average 189. So these are your average. And his car has been paid off. Insurance costs about 249 a month. And for irregular expense, he saves about 300. So that's how you go about in terms of answering or completing this table. So you have to add these for column 1 in order for you to get the total expense for cost 1. He doesn't have emergency expenses, that is 0. So you'll have to calculate everything from cost 1 in order for you to get the total expense, and need to minus this with the money that he earns per month, which will give you the money available at the end of the month. So Philip did not budget for emergency expense, as you can see. Do you think this is right? You need to explain your answer. And listening to what you have just said, Philip decides to add 300 per month for emergency expenses. Please add this expense to the table and complete it again using column 2. So you'll add 300 to column 2. Philip wants to go on holiday to Cape Town at the end of the year. The cost of the tour, excluding the spending money, is 4,000. Will Philip have enough money available at the end of November 2020 for the tour? So you need to show all calculations. So this is for cost 2. So the cost of the tour, excluding spending money, is 4,000. So you need to add this, the cost of the tour. So that's how you go about in terms of answering. So the cost in this 4,000 should be included into column cost 2. The interest rate went up by 1% at the end of October. This means that all Philip expenses have also risen by the same amount. So you need to recalculate all the Philip's expenses and complete information in column cost 3. So all his expenses, let me just highlight this. All his expenses have risen by 1%. So you'll have to add 1% to all of his expenses. You need to add 1% to all of his expenses and complete this to column 3. So that's it for this question. You need to critically analyze Philip's budget and make suggestions and recommendations on the improvements where Philip can be helped. So you will analyze his budget based on the costs, and you'll make suggestions or recommendations based on your analysis on his budgets. Moving on to question 3, you need to explain what is simple and compound interest. Just provide explanation. And question 4, Marco and Julia have just got engaged. They have They each have a lump sum which they want to invest in order to make their funds grow sufficient for their wedding. However, they seem to disagree on who will get the best returns, as they cannot agree on which interest form to choose. So they decide to choose their own. Marco invests his 5,800 at 9% simple interest, and Julia invests 4,700 at 11.75 simple interest annually. So who has the greater capital at the end of 2 years? You need to show a calculation for Marco and for Julia. So the good thing is we were given a hint. We're using simple interest formula, and for both, so you need to come up with your formula and the calculations. Question 5, you need to explain what are cost and revenue. And question 6, Sam is looking to buy his first flat and has 15,000 in cash savings, which he will use as a deposit. So he has viewed a flat which is on the market for 250,000, and he would like to work out how much the monthly repayments would be. So he will be taking out a 30-year mortgage with monthly installments. So the annual interest rate is 11%. You need to determine the following from the given list: the deposit amount, the price of flat, and the interest rate. So in terms of calculating this, you have to use this formula for your mortgage with monthly repayments. So you'll use this formula in terms of calculating your monthly repayments. So you need to determine the deposit amount. You need to find the deposit amount, which you will use this formula. So for step 1, you need to determine the deposit amount. The deposit amount as per given instruction. So this is the deposit amount. He wants to deposit 15,000. 1, 2, 3. Price of flat, it's 250,000. And the interest rate is 11, which could be 0.01, 0.11. Yes, 0.11. So these are what we have in terms of for step 1. So now we have so what we need to determine now is the monthly repayments. So using this, you'll have to substitute everything in order for you to determine in terms of how much would you make off in terms of the monthly repayment. So we're looking for the monthly repayments. Yes, you can use this by determining the monthly payments. So you can use this formula or the one that I've given in the beginning when I've explained, where, let me just show you, where you have your P, your interest rate, and you calculating the monthly repayments. So you either use the two formulas. So that's it for the question 6. And that's it for the summative assessment. So you'll attempt these questions for both formative and summative assessments, and we'll continue on Tuesday for the next unit standard. Thank you, and we'll communicate further.